Gamers and everybody who likes to wipe their eyes with silk with the color of 1,000 cherry blossoms, then look no further, because for the first time in ever, pretty much history ever, this TV is better than my PC monitor. Good afternoon and welcome to Turbo Tortoise Tech. If you're new here, I'm Reese of the 4-piece variety or Wookie Triple XL, and I'm probably going to make a financial mistake by buying one of these because this thing is kind of special. Samsung has pulled some witchcraft on us here, and what seems to be a normal television is just something else entirely. So what is it? It's the QN90B. It's a 4K 144Hz QLED display from Samsung. It's got a really nice stand. It's a U-shaped type design. It's got space for a base mount. It's got enough HDMI connections for 2 screens. It's got an optical in as well, so you can connect it up to high-end hi-fi systems. It's got LAN, it's got Wi-Fi, and it's a smart TV as well. So because it's a smart TV, if I hit the home button over here, you'll notice it's got its own little computer brain. And one of the slimmer chassis to put all of this into as well, I have to note, and the power supply is housed internally as well. So it's got an incredibly thin profile to it. It is a weighty boy, it is a hefty child because it's a 50-inch TV. I mean, just look at the size comparison over here. This thing is absolutely massive, and it's equally as good as it is large. So what makes this monitor so special? Well, beyond the fact that within these settings, I can actually go in and change the picture setup in a way that's sort of mind-blowingly detailed. I mean, just you've got your brightness, contrast, sharpness, and your color saturation on the base plate of the machine. 25 is the base, but I like 30 because, well, we'll put it on 28, which is a happy medium between the two. But as I increase it, if I just go absolutely ham and just cause all the bloom effect to be very extremely represented over there, you can see it's got quite a lot of tunability built into the panel itself. Even tinting, if I wanted to tint it warmer or colder with a green edge, I can do that just straight on the monitor. So if the color reproduction of whatever you're watching isn't good enough, then the monitor can sort of account. I keep calling it a monitor because it's basically what it is. We've also got, if I go to all settings here, I wanted to show you there's 2 different picture modes. There's the entertain mode, which is in now, and then the graphic mode, which is a little bit dimmer and more in line with sort of like saturation of things, because that's a big focus here is on the color palette. But I mean, the entertain mode is clearly the better of the two. There's some sound stuff as well. You can decide where to output it. If there's a Wi-Fi speaker surround setup, you can do that and connect it over there. It's got various connection modes. You can connect it into your Wi-Fi, for instance, and then obviously check the status of it, etc. I've got FBI van number 4. Just for my neighbors, because this is also an incredibly powerful Wi-Fi unit. So I've no doubt they can see that on their phone, and I hope you guys are having a good chuckle as a result of that. But it's got everything that you need, and then some more thrown on top of it. The picture settings are so detailed. If you go into expert settings over here, I mean, you're looking at like some gamma settings. You've got some stuff that I've never even seen, shadow detail. Like it can do a lot. It can do quite a lot on the base setup, not just brightness and contrast, but this was basically how I used it and how I filmed it was with the settings that you see now. And because it's a smart TV as well, you can push one button, for instance, to go straight into your Netflix account. You can connect your Disney Plus, you can connect your Prime Video, you can even connect your Twitch and your YouTube. Everything that you would need. You actually don't need a PC to run all of that from here, because you could just run it through the smart TV elements. All of this runs at 1080p, obviously, so it's not going to be as sharp as if you were running on 4K with the PC. Well, this is going to still be the ultimate way to set it up. But those are the features of the screen and how it all works. And yes, it's seemingly like a normal smart TV, except for the QLED stuff. This is where Samsung has pulled a fast one on us and created all of the good stuff with OLED with a minor drawback and a significantly better price. I mean, significantly better price. So What do we have over here? How is this all working? So it's LED backlit LCD. This is actually an LCD panel. It's like a normal TN. I'm not sure if it's IPS or TN or what it is, but it's seemingly quite irrelevant because that's not where the magic happens. The magic happens with a combination of control of the backlight, which is done in zones. I can see from the mouse crosshair or the mouse crosshair, or the cursor. When I had it on a black out background, I could see actually it was lighting LED from behind. Fortunately, I couldn't quite capture that on camera. It's difficult to film TVs and screens and stuff as is. But yeah, I'll try and do this thing justice. Not that it ever will, based on what I'm going to show you. But let me tell you what happens and what's been tested and verified because of this quantum dot layer. So what the quantum dot layer does is it actually intercepts the light coming out of the monitor, and then it's like a lens that sits on top of the actual pixels that are coming out. And then in combination with the backlight, they get something that they've called HDR32, which works as normal with HDR, and it's actually really functional on this. And then the fact that I can up that saturation makes it even more functional, obviously. So you can tune it so that there's no bloom, which is what we're aiming for here. Easiest way to see that is where you've got extreme saturations of colors in areas. You'll see now with Mr. Parrot, which will come on after this next scene. He's the general area that I tune it for because his feathers show bloom really, really nicely, and there's absolutely none of that with this monitor. Before we get to Mr. Parrot though, I wanted to show you Mr. Frog because this is where I was first like, hold on, this monitor's kind of nuts. The black on his skin over there with the lighting and then the blue like that, it's a whole bunch of high contrast areas together, and it does it absolutely perfectly. There's not a pixel wrong. 88 pixels per square inch. To give you a reference, a 27 Full HD is 82, 81. So this is higher than that, okay, than a 1080p 27-inch monitor. More pixels per inch on this 50-inch TV over here. So that was the first thing where I was like, whoa. And then the second one where I was like, okay, this is just ridiculous, was right here. See Mr. McCaw, he's got beautiful red feathers and blue and yellow and everything, all high contrasting together. But the feathers impeccably don't have any bloom. You can see each individual feather, even if you go right up on top of it. I can make it bloom outside of its feather ratio or outside of the feathers by increasing that color ratio, but I don't really need to because it's absolutely perfect. So what is the measured color palette of this? Well, it's 100% of DCI-P3. Not sRGB, which is like the entry-level rating for like Adobe and stuff to do basic color correction and stuff. DCI-P3 is the rating. It's like the final one. It's like the final boss, and something maybe you've never even heard of because it's that much of a final boss, and it's quite difficult to get to. Except this monitor gets 100% of DCI-P3 rating. So there's none of the drawback of an OLED burning in and blooming and that sort of stuff. It still gets great contrast performance. The blacks and stuff aren't going to be as dark or as well represented as an OLED, but the color palette is, and with all the response time of a fast panel, plus this monitor runs at 144 Hertz. That's right, 4K 144 Hertz on this. So gaming on here was a lot of fun, and I spent like a significant amount of time on the simulator trying to make content and stuff for this because yeah, cameras versus monitors is not a battle that's often won by the camera. But in this instance, I managed to get it tweaked so that I could show you some live gameplay of me just having a dirt around and played some Space Engineers and like big open environment sort of games. Even ran some Cyberpunk on this poor RX 6600, managed a healthy 30 FPS, but it did look incredibly good while doing it. This monitor for gaming, for media, anything is absolutely incredible at the price. It's unbeatable for me at the price. The only drawback that this lens Q quantum dot layer creates, the only drawback that it really has is its viewing angle, because if you go to the extreme, then the lens isn't going to work. But the viewing angle is still about 120 degrees before that happens. So imagine if there's a cone in front of it, normally we would say it's 178, which is almost 180, it's almost completely flat like that. But this is probably about 120, it's probably about there. So if you're in a normal lounge environment and you don't have a ridiculously poor seating setup, nobody's gonna be ill affected by that, by sitting at it slightly side on. Even from where I'm here, I have to go all the way over here, and then I can actually see through the quantum dot layer. which is kind of spooky in of itself. But you can see the point that it changes. It's very, very noticeable because it makes things look dull after the fact. So it's a cheat way of doing everything that OLED is doing. And because it's a cheat way, and because everything else behind it is sort of normal everyday technology, the price point is way better. There is no monitor in PC, in anything that I've seen that compares to this. This is 23 grand, is about the retail price for this. If you look at an Alienware 34-inch, it's got the same sort of resolution, same sort of refresh rate, etc., etc. Color palette is not as good as this. It costs like 35 grand and it's smaller. And yes, I hear you, it's got a periscope neck and stuff, but how much is a wall mount for this sucker? Use the VESA mount at the back, and then you've got legitimately probably the best monitor you could have. To design off of this, to work off of this, etc. It can do all of that. And you can tune it to your usage and obviously your lighting environment. In the studio here, you can see, I mean, with the reflection on the screen, I've got a lot of lighting just so you can see me better, etc. But yeah, you wouldn't need that in your environments. And so what you've got here is the best screen you can buy for the money that you would spend on it. There's just nothing comparable at this price point. It makes my IPS and my VA look like a joke. It genuinely does. This is better in absolutely every single way. There's pixel response time because of that normal LCD and stuff in between is perfect. So they just layered a lens on top to get the colors right. Brilliant, Samsung. Absolutely massive big brain moment. Congratulations. I'm now going to go and make a financial mistake and probably end up buying one of these. So if you want to join me, hit us up with a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side.